Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of Coffee and Sports Morning Show. And you got a special face here today. I'm filling in for Gene, College Cottrell here. And of course, I'm joined by Mr. Mo Better. If you mow better, you do better. Mo, how you feeling this morning?
I'm doing blessed on a Thursday. Tough night for my Lakers, but you know what? It's the NBA, and I'm a hoop lover, so let's get into it.
Perfect. I mean, hey, that's the perfect place to start, man. I'm sure you were up watching the game, kind of seeing it all unfold. And for me, it felt like the writing was on the wall pretty early in that one. Obviously, Lakers fought back. They got the lead later on in the game. But for me, I just felt like, JJ already openly coming out saying Jackson Hayes isn't playing. The way he talked in his presser, getting a little emotional, talking about, his inexperience and things like that. I just felt like the Lakers were kind of in a panic mode, and it didn't feel like to me that they had a true sense of urgency. Did you kind of get the same feeling there? Did you kind of have some hope there with what JJ was throwing out there, or kind of give me your assessment of the game?
I'm with you. I didn't feel like they played with the kind of urgency that you need to when you're the team facing being closed out. And I was kind of surprised that in a series going into a game 5 that could potentially be a closeout game for you going the other way, that he played Maxi Kleber, like a guy who hadn't played at all, hadn't been in the rotation. And he said, you know what, Maxi Kleber, you're up. I expect you to play big and do well. And of course it didn't work out. It didn't make sense to me. Look, I get it. I know Jackson Hayes is not a big time scorer, but he is a big body. He's an athletic body. He can compete with Rudy Gobert on the boards. He's quicker. He's more athletic than Rudy Gobert. I'm not saying he would have outplayed him, but he could have competed against him. He would have gave you a viable guy with size. He would have gave you some rim protection, a little bit more rebounding. He's also a good rim runner for Luka or LeBron. I thought the moves that JJ made the last 2 games or his decisions, they were more panic moves. So it was disappointing. Look, I'm on board with saying when the Luka trade happened, it's great. Going forward, I didn't think the Lakers were title contenders, but I'll be fully honest. Did I believe going into the postseason that the Lakers could beat the Timberwolves? I did. Even though I knew the Minnesota was a little bit longer, a little bit more physical, I still thought the Lakers could win that series. I'm blown away and impressed with how well Julius Randle played from start to finish. He and Jaden McDaniels, I thought, played above their heads for an entire series. And if they can take that kind of energy and production and consistency to the next round, Minnesota's going to be a problem, because coming into the postseason, Minnesota is not one of the better offensive teams in the NBA. They're not. They're a good defensive team, but they don't hang their hat on offense. When you look at their roster construction, Anthony Edwards can create for himself and others. Julius Randle, to a lesser degree, can create for others, but he can score. Other than that, they don't have scores. They really don't. So I was impressed with how much production they consistently got from McDaniels, from Julius Randle. And Naz Reid is always good off the bench, don't get me wrong. Look, hats off to Minnesota for being consistent in the fourth quarter. They outplayed the Lakers in every fourth quarter. That stat alone kind of sums up the series. In a game that you needed to win, when the Minnesota Timberwolves shot 7 for 47 from 3, and you still lost. Like, they were god awful from 3, and the Lakers still couldn't pull out that game.
Yeah, that was the crazy part to me. And obviously didn't have anywhere close to the game, you thought he would have in a game like that. He was 0 of 11 from 3, 5 of 19 from the field. You had Dante DiVincenzo, who was, a splash guy for them off the bench. He was 2 of 12 from 3. Julius Randle, who it felt like was making every 3-point shot he took in all the games prior, he was 1 for 6. Like, as a team, this Minnesota team only made 7 threes. They were 7 of 47. That's 15%. And you still find a way to lose that basketball game. I mean, I think that is the probably troubling and or most frustrating part. Like, if you're a Lakers fan, I understand the mantra of, hey, if Rudy Gobert has a great offensive game and he beats us, so be it. We don't want to get killed by the open 3-pointer. So, like, in a sense, I kind of understand where JJ was coming from because, again, if the offensive game plan for Minnesota is, hey, we want Rudy Gobert to score as many points as possible to see if we can win this basketball game, as you know, as a Laker fan or as any team's fan going up against that Minnesota Timberwolves team, if you're going through Rudy Gobert, like, I'm all for it. Cool. At some point, he's going to shoot you guys in the foot. That, you know, we'll go from there. We'll cross that bridge once we get to it. But I think at the same time, though, there has to be a point where you say, all right, this can't happen anymore. 27 and 24 from Rudy Gobert sounds like I don't even know if you can accomplish that playing 2K with Rudy Gobert, let alone, you know, a real basketball game. So, I mean, I just felt like, you know, JJ, as good of a coach as I think he can be, I think you could tell that this really was his first playoff experience. And even with all those vet assistant coaches that he has, obviously JJ is going to get the final say in a lot of stuff. Sure. And to me, I just felt like JJ didn't understand or make the certain changes that he needed to, you know, once those games really got going. And I mean, that's, in a sense, that's okay. First year coaching, you get that experience. It just can't be a repeated thing, you know, down the line. But with that said, Mo, for your Lakers, like this upcoming offseason, what do they need to do to improve the roster and put themselves in contention to, you know, compete for a title?
It's a laundry list, but let's start with the obvious. They need to get a big. They need to get an athletic rim protecting big, especially when you have two guys like Luka and LeBron who can get down in the seams and create for others. They're terrific lob passers. They always draw. So I think you need that, but I also think that they need a consistent shooter outside of Luka and LeBron. They need somebody. And Austin Reeves I think Austin Reeves can shoot, but he's more of a scorer than a shooter. I'm talking about a great catch and shoot guy. I thought Austin Connect could still be that. I don't want to get ahead of myself. We're talking about a guy in his rookie season, but I think that if you're the Lakers, they also want to go out and get them a legitimate 3-and-D guy. I know you're a big fan of Vanderbilt. I am too. And by the way, you were dead on. He came in, and I thought Vando had an impact defensively on the game. He played well. It was just that the Lakers' offense was so flat overall. Even when they made the push in the third quarter, you can tell it wasn't sustainable. They just didn't have the energy. Think about this. If I told you a guy averaged 25 points, 9 rebounds, and just under 6 assists, shot almost 50% from the floor, 38% from three, you would have said he had a great series. That's what LeBron did. LeBron was terrific, and yet because he's so great, he's really competing against LeBron, right? Like it didn't feel like he had that kind of series, and he had that kind of series because of the way things ended up. So the problem isn't at the top of the snake, not when you're looking at LeBron and Luka. I think it's the surrounding cast. You need shooters, you need a 3-and-D guy, an athletic 3-and-D guy, and you definitely need an athletic big that can protect the rim and finish at the rim as well. I don't know if the Lakers have the capital to go out and acquire all those things. And maybe they don't have to. Like I said, maybe Dalton Connect steps up and he becomes that shooter. But they do need to seek out the big. And then you have to wonder as you get into the postseason next year. One of the things that was constantly said when they made the Luka trade was, we all agreed it's the dumb trade. But I was saying it was a dumb trade, not because it was Luka. I was saying it was a dumb trade because of what they got in return. If you're going to move somebody that big star at the age that he's at, I thought you would have got, like, give me Anthony Davis, give me Austin Reeves, give me your pick. Like, I would have needed a lot more. And that was my problem with Dallas. Like, Nico Harrison, like, no knock against Anthony Davis, but you should have got a lot more back in return, and they didn't. And look, Luka's never going to be a great defender, but he can be capable. He can compete more, and that's all you need from your stars, that they give effort on that side of the floor. And I think that the more times he spends with LeBron, especially with LeBron's commitment to working out in the offseason, I think Luka will be in better shape. I think he'll be a better I'm not talking about a great defender, but I think he'll be a better defender. I think that this offseason, the Lakers front office is going to make a commitment to make them a younger, more athletic team as opposed to the roster they had this year.
I agree. And I was kind of looking at as the game was ending there, I was kind of looking at a list of like some guys that are potential free agents, come this upcoming offseason, or even some guys who I feel like could potentially be on the trading block. And just some of the names that I put together for as far as bigs go, Nick Claxton out in Brooklyn, I feel like that would be a really good fit. He defends well. He's a rim threat as well there. And I don't think it would take too much capital to get a guy like that. Another one I thought of is Larry Nance Jr. Obviously not a splash name there, but a rim runner. That's the perfect kind of guy for Luka. Attacks the rim, catches alley-oops and things like that. That's just something that they don't have right now. You need somebody that's going to be able to run out there in transition with Luka, catch the lobs, set great screens. And, obviously Larry Nance Jr. has played in LA before, so he would be familiar with some of the guys there. Another name that I put on my list here because he will be a free agent. I think this would probably be a little too rich of a contract for the Lakers to take on, but I think John Collins would be the perfect big to put on that Lakers team.
That's really good.
Having a guy like that who, I mean, he makes his living off of catching alley-oops. I mean, I think that would be, a perfect match. You get younger there. And essentially, that's your additional piece that you can, even after LeBron retires. I'm not saying John Collins is like a franchise cornerstone or anything like that, but that's a person that you can build around. It's like, all right, well, LeBron's gone. We got Luka, we got John Collins. We go get us another superstar, and we got something really cooking here. And then just as far as guards go, I 100% agree with you. And they need to get better on the ring. They need to get more athletic on the wing, and they need some better defenders. Herbert Jones out in New Orleans is another name that I was thinking about, where I don't think with them having Trey Murphy already, and Herbert Jones is coming off an injury, I think that asking price might be a little bit cheaper than what it may have been even just a year or two ago. And then the last one is it's not going to be a popular one among a lot of people, but it's a guy that can defend and a guy that gives you the additional height there. Ben Simmons in LA would make a ton of sense, in my opinion. I mean, that he can rebound. He's going to do pretty much everything. He can run your offense. And obviously, we know he can defend. Ben Simmons is a guy that could really defend 1 through 5 if you give him the opportunity. The question that you really have with him is what you have all the time with him is effort. What kind of Ben Simmons are you going to be getting there? But I think that could be like a low risk kind of high reward kind of player for them. And he's also signed to Clutch there, so he has the same representation as LeBron. So that could be something that they work on, behind the scenes there. So I mean, just a couple names that I was really thinking about for that Lakers team that wouldn't be too expensive and not necessarily splash, but fills the needs that they have.
It's interesting because you say they're not splash moves, but it's funny because when you put some of those players with Luka and LeBron, they become splash moves, right? Because of playing with Luka and LeBron. Like, you're right. Look, if you get Ben Simmons, I'll just take the Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is Vando, but he's a better ball handler than Vando, right? Mm-hmm. Like he can run your offense. And I'm not expecting Ben Simmons, the all-star 16, 8, and 8. Give me Ben Simmons who can give you 7, 7, and 7, right? Give me that guy, but can defend at an elite level in your rotation. I love that for the Lakers. It gives them defensive versatility. It also gives them another playmaker. I think that's a great move. You blew me away, the John Collins one, because I was thinking about John Collins. I'm kind of like you. As I'm watching the Lakers lose, I immediately start looking at guys and rosters in their contracts who wouldn't be big superstar names, but would fit. And I thought the one thing I can really appreciate about John Collins is he went to Utah and he kind of reinvented himself and went from being a 4 who could stretch the floor to a 5 who's really more of a rim runner as a 5, but he's effective as a 5. He's proven himself as a 5, and he can face up and shoot the ball. I love the John Collins moves. I think those smart kind of moves are the kind of moves that Rob Pelinka could seek out, that maybe it wouldn't blow some Laker fans away, but if you know basketball, those are smart moves. Herb Jones would give you the athletic wing defender who can also shoot the 3. If you put competent players around a LeBron James. And I know people are going to say he's right, but he's still one of the best players in basketball. Put competent players around he and Luka, the Lakers will go on a deep playoff run.
All right. Well, feel like that's enough Laker talk for now. I'm sure they'll get a lot more shine on the show as we get closer to the off season. And I'm sure LeBron's gonna drag out I don't know if I'm retiring this off season. And so I'm sure we'll give the Lakers a ton more shine here. But they weren't the only one in the closeout game last night. The Houston Rockets were down 3-1, and the Warriors came in, trying to advance and move on there. And the Houston Rockets said, absolutely no way. They shut down everything Golden State was doing. Didn't get a chance to watch this game live because it was happening the same time as wire to wire, but went back, saw a lot of the highlights, saw the box scores, and it looks like Golden State really just didn't have anything going. But what was your takeaway from that Golden State-Houston game? And, just to add on to that, after seeing that kind of performance, do you think Houston still has a shot to actually win this series?
It's strange to say this because I've been critical of the fact that Houston doesn't have consistent shooting, but what they've always had is they have a litany of athletic 6'7", 6'8" wings who can get to the basket, who are terrific defenders, and Houston's probably the best rebounding team in the NBA. I thought they imposed their will on Golden State. Last night, Houston looked like the younger team. Like there was a separation. Golden State looked old last night. And I thought 2 games in a row, they've bottled up Steph. They've worn him down. And I wasn't expecting a lot from Jimmy Butler last night because I thought he gave everything he had in the previous game. I don't even think Jimmy Butler physically is 80%, and he's out there trying to compete. I do think, surprisingly, Houston can make this a 7-game series because I think as this series goes on, I think they get stronger. I think they get more confident. And while I'm not necessarily sold on their leading scorer as the guy that's going to take them there, I think as a collective, with their culture and their attitude, with Coach Udoka, I think they can find what they found last night is instead of shooting threes left and right, let's attack the basket. Golden State doesn't have any rim protection. That is something that they should do consistently over and over and over again. Golden State doesn't have any shot blockers. Attack the basket. I think Houston, much like another series, they seem to be the team getting stronger and imposing their will. And Golden State, if they don't close them out in 6, I think Golden State will be in trouble if it goes 7.
I agree. I think if it goes 7, obviously it gets back to Houston at that point. But again, I didn't get to see the game live, so I didn't get to see the full flow of it. But like, Amen Thompson is a guy that has a ton of just pressure. He can put pressure on anybody on the perimeter. 2, you got Dillon Brooks. Obviously, we know Dillon Brooks is a good defender. He's one of those annoying pest kind of things. But seeing Dillon Brooks had 24 points as well, I mean, if he's giving you that kind of production, that's going to be the best version of Houston. And before, the only other game that Houston had won in the series was when Jalen Green had scored almost 40. Right. And Jalen Green had a rather pedestrian night once again. He had 11 points, and it really wasn't a factor because everybody else was doing everything for that Rockets team. So I think if they can continue to bring that energy and bring, what you can throw at that Warriors team with those athletic wings you're talking about that are all, anywhere from 6'5" to 6'8", then I think that's going to put the Warriors in a really awkward position. Obviously, you need Steph to have those good games to put you in position there. But even towards the end of the game 4 that they had lost, I thought they were starting to figure out how to navigate Steph through screens and, just cutting off his space to not give him great looks. No, the Warriors won that game, but I thought that, to me at least, it looked like the Rockets were starting to figure that out. And I even said last night on Wire to Wire before, we knew what was happening in this game, that I thought the Rockets had a much better shot of forcing a potential game 7 than what the Lakers did, just because I see the physicality of the series. And I think you can start to frustrate guys like Draymond Green or Jimmy Butler. And, just with their temperaments, those are players that could potentially get kicked out of games or, just really get off of their game. So I thought the Rockets had a shot. They did what they were supposed to do in game 5. I think Game 6 is going to be an absolute dogfight. And I think it's a 3-2 series, but I think the Warriors will realize that Game 6 is really a must win. You
It's
can't go
everything.
back to Houston and have them with all the momentum, knowing that they can beat you, especially if it looks anything like Game 5 did, as far as it being a blowout. So it'll be interesting to see. I still think the Warriors take care of business in 6. I said that I think the Rockets lose a heartbreaker. Just because down the stretch, if games are tight, I just don't know who their go-to guy is going to be. Is it going to be Van Vliet? Is it going to be Jalen Green? Like, I don't know if I trust either one of them to outduel, Steph Curry in the clutch there. So still like the Warriors in 6, but I think the Rockets can make this very, very interesting.
You brought up a great point that if Houston can impose their physicality, their athletic advantage that they have over Golden State, yeah, they have a shot. And look, I'm glad you brought up Amir Thompson, who, by the way, I think should have got a little bit more love for Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's an absolutely terrific defender, but not just a terrific defender. Every time I watch him, I see him coming into his own offensively too. Like clearly he knows he has to develop a consistent perimeter shot, but he's already very skilled at finishing around the basket with either hand. Like I just love the way he plays and impacts the games on both ends. And I guarantee you, Coach Udoka has these guys watching film over and over, because the biggest problem with guarding Steph, it's not just the fact that he moves off the ball so much. It's that Steph is a terrific pick setter. And when Steph sets a pick, your natural defensive instinct is to run to the open man. You run to the open man, and what happened? Steph moves again in another action, and he's wide open. And to be that disciplined the way they were last night, that was impressive.
Agreed. And I think the one other thing that I want to just talk about with the men is that I think obviously not the same kind of player, but like I think developmentally he is going to have a similar arc as what we've seen with Jalen Williams. Like Jalen Williams is taking over that number 2 role in Oklahoma City, and is with this Rockets team. I don't think they have a bona fide number 1. I think some nights it's Sengun, some nights it's Jalen Green, some nights it's Fred VanVleet. But like I think if somebody can emerge as a true number 1, Amen Thompson has all the tools and all the ability to be a true number 2 for you offensively and defensively. I think he's super talented, and I think we're really starting to see him, come to his own there on that side. But wanted to move on here just because we got a couple big games tonight that could potentially be closeout games. You got the Knicks Pistons back in Detroit, and then you have Clippers Nuggets as well. Mo, we'll start with the Knicks Pistons just because I feel like that is the one that, again, just like this Rockets series, if it goes back to Game 7, I think all the pressure is on the Knicks, and I think they're really feeling that, and they could be on the verge of blowing a 3-1 lead there. For you, Mo, how do you see this game going? What do you think the keys to victory are going to be for either team, and ultimately who you got winning?
I think the Knicks have to get Karl-Anthony Towns going early. They have to get Towns going early. He's a rhythm player. They've got to get him some shots up early, and he's got to stay involved in the offense at all times. Like I think too many times on too many possessions, they're so reliant on Jalen Brunson just weaving in and out, eating up the shot clock, and then creating or making a tough shot. You've got to move the ball some. Let Jalen Brunson play off the ball a little bit more. Look, the last game, the game they lost, it was weird because OG was playing terrific, and you ask yourself, how come he only took 2 shots in the second half? That didn't make sense to me. They have to keep guys like Bridges and OG involved in the offense. It can't just be Brunson and Towns. But I will say this, as this series goes on, very much like the Houston series, this is the one I was talking about. I feel like the younger team, the more physical team, and it actually is the Pistons, they're the more physical team. I think they're wearing down the Knicks because the Knicks don't go deep. They don't go deep into their rotation, and it's taking a toll on Brunson, on Towns, on Bridges. I think Tom Thibodeau is going to have to find a way. I don't care if it's 4 or 5 minutes. He's got to go a little bit deeper into his rotation. Because right now, I just think the more physical and the younger team are imposing their will. If they don't close them out tonight, they're absolutely in trouble. They're absolutely the Pistons are just getting stronger and more confident. Like the great thing, what do we always say about young teams that it's their first time? They don't know what they don't know.
Yep.
This is actually a different team, though. They don't know what they don't know. The young core does it, but they've got solid veterans like Schroeder, who's played well. I've been really impressed with the way he just played for the Sixers. I'm losing his name, but he's been terrific.
Tobias Harris.
Tobias Harris has been probably the most consistent player outside of Cade Cunningham for the Pistons. I think the Knicks are flirting with danger if they don't take this game every bit as serious as Golden State should take the game tonight as well.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you on that. I think the one thing that the Knicks should be cautiously optimistic about is the fact that you only lost by 3, and Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns did not have a good game in game 5. You were fully in that. You actually had an opportunity to tie the game late there, and obviously didn't happen. But I think Jalen Brunson is a guy who he was voted the most the clutchest player of the year, and I think that's for a reason. Down the stretch, talk about how he plays throughout the course of the game, the flopping and all that. Down the stretch, especially in the fourth quarter, that is a guy who gets to his spot and puts the ball in the bucket. And that's what you need in games like this. Detroit's obviously going to be rocking. They were rocking the first 2 games in the Palace there, or Little Caesars Arena now, but they were rocking then. And you talk about Tobias Harris. Obviously, he's been incredible for them. Cade Cunningham has been doing his thing. But again, another Thompson twin. Asura has been playing well for the Pistons too. And I think this series ultimately is going to come down to those. I think it's going to come down to the others for the Knicks. You need Josh Hart to consistently play well. You need him to hit the open shots when he gets them, because the Pistons have been playing great defense. And Mikal Bridges hasn't had really a great series. I mean, he's hit some tough shots. Like I think back to game 4 when he was hitting some really tough shots where he hadn't made anything all game, but it got tight down the stretch there. You needed some offense, and he started hitting some tough shots. You need those guys to take care of that stuff. And this is a Knicks team who obviously are going to be the better shooters. Detroit is so inconsistent from behind the 3-point line. And I think if you can start to, hit your threes, you have the potential to really pull away in this one. So if you keep it tight, I like the Knicks' chances. If it becomes a 3-point shootout, I like the Knicks' chances. I think ultimately what it's going to come down to is, can this Detroit team really just build off of that momentum that they've had and run away with this one? I think if it's a close game, you're going to see another heartbreaker, just like game 4. Talk about the missed foul all you want to. I think Detroit blew that game down the stretch anyway. Before that, just Jalen Brunson that got hurt, and he wasn't supposed to be as effective, but then he came back and really took over the game there. I thought that was Detroit's opportunity to pounce, and it shouldn't have came down to a missed foul call ultimately. But in this one, I actually think the Knicks go to Detroit. They take care of business. I think they close out the series, but I will be rooting for Detroit to take care of business and force a game 7, because I think the Knicks would go back to New York and they'd be playing tight as all get out. So that's just kind of how I see it going. But with that said, we still got another game that could potentially be a closeout. You got the Denver Nuggets up 3-2 against the Los Angeles Clippers. And Mo, this series has really been probably the most entertaining series throughout the playoffs, and every game had been close outside of game 5. And if you would have told me Nikola Jokic, I said this on Wire to Wire last night as well, if you'd have told me Nikola Jokic scored less than 15 points in a game, I would have said, oh, the Clippers probably won that game by 20. Right. But that wasn't the case. Mo, how do you see this game going? Jamal Murray had quite the impression on the game as well, had 43 points. Do you think that's something that could potentially happen again? Just kind of give me your thoughts about where you see this thing going.
I still think the Clippers never recovered from game 4. I don't think they recovered from that. To lose the way they lost with the Gordon dunk, I think they're shell shocked. I don't think they recover from that. Hopefully they come back facing elimination and I expect a more spirited effort from them. I think in this game, I think you're going to get a big game from Kawhi Leonard. I think you get a big game from Norman Powell. I hope, just as a fan of the NBA, I don't care which team wins. I hope James Harden steps up because, like you said, the Nuggets dominated them thoroughly, and Joker wasn't the story. Everybody else was, in particular, Jamal Murray. No one could slow him down for the Clippers. And I just thought the Clippers, they played with little to no energy at all on both ends of the floor. I have to expect Ty Lue will have those guys ready to go. The scary part is you're not going to see Joker have a game like that again. Like I expect tonight's game is going to be more like Joker, 28, 15, and 10 or something like that. Like, you know what I mean? And if you get a typical Joker game and then Jamal Murray chips in with 30, I don't know how the Clippers overcome that. Because I do think the Clippers are the deeper team, but I think the Nuggets have the better starting five.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that too. And I think the other thing that's kind of getting lost in the shuffle here as well is Russell Westbrook had, I think, 21 off the bench in that last game. And so Russell Westbrook, it seems like he was kind of the focal point of why Mike Malone got let go, just discrepancies with his playing time and how he should be impacted in that Nuggets rotation there. But he gave you, very solid minutes there. And I truly think that this Clippers team really squandered an opportunity. When Joker has games like that, you have to find ways to win those games because they don't happen too often. Right. And so even if you don't get 40 from Jamal Murray or even 30 from Jamal Murray, if Jokic has the ability to have a 40-point triple-double anytime he steps on the floor, and I think in a closeout game, he'll understand that. And on the flip side of it, if you're the Clippers team, we've seen time and time again, when the moment gets big for James Harden, he comes up very small. And so I think this is just another case of history repeating. So I like the Nuggets to take care of business tonight, and I think they move on. I had the Nuggets before the series. I'm sticking with them. I think with Joker being the best player and you finally get Jamal Murray coming to life, this should give him some confidence. And, I think they take care of business yet again. Mo, you got the Nuggets win tonight, or you think go 7?
I think Denver wins tonight, but I do think you get a terrific game from Kawhi and Norman Powell.
I can definitely see that. I'm hoping for 2 good games. I mean, best 2 words in sports, game 7. So,
oh my God,
if we can get 2 of them, I mean, sign me up. But we'll see what happens there. I know you guys will go over it more tomorrow. The recap and all that. But want to shift gears here a little bit. Go over to the NFL and look. Everybody out there, I'm telling you right now, the Shedeur Sanders story, it's tired at this point. We're a week past it. We're not talking about it today, and unless Mo's going to surprise me here. But no, we're not talking about it here today. But I did want to talk some NFL draft with you, just because it's NFL, and we now see where everybody is gone and things like that. I kind of just wanted to get your opinion about some things, some good fits that you saw, or just players that you think might have potentially the biggest impact with their new organization. If you want to give me a couple offense, or one on offense, or a couple on offense, one on defense, or a couple on defense, and maybe even throw in a sleeper there. I mean, I definitely would love to hear it. And I just kind of for me, like, I just starting off here, the first name that I'm thinking about, like, immediately, Kyle, you're gonna love this one, but for me, it's TreVeyon Henderson going to the New England Patriots. Then bringing in a running back that can pass block. So Drake May is going to be protected back there, and he's going to pick up every assignment. And you're also giving him a guy that can hit the home run. If you hand him the ball, you can throw him out there on screens. And then he's also great with, catching the ball out the backfield. I think that's a perfect fit, and he is like the perfect gift for a young quarterback. So I think TreVeyon Henderson is going to go to New England and fit like a glove. Mo, offensively, who you thinking right now?
The interesting thing offensively is, even though I don't think he's going to primarily play on offense, I do think Travis Hunter will be big and impactful for Jacksonville. I'm one of those kind of people, when you're a fan of the NFL, you kind of want things to go the way you want things. I wanted Travis Hunter to go to your Cleveland Browns. That's what I wanted. You know what I mean? That's what I like. That's what I wanted. And it kind of surprised me, but good for Jacksonville. What they looked at is this is a guy that not only can put seats in the stands, he can play football. He's
Yep.
a special talent. And I do think he will probably be a better corner than a wide receiver, but I think he will be a big-time playmaker as a wide receiver. I can see them using him in a variety of packages. Not to how many times do you think we're going to see Travis Hunter get in a jet sweep? Like he's terrific with the ball in his hands. So I just think that he's going to give you an added dimension. He's going to give Sunshine a much needed weapon. So I'm excited to see Travis Hunter in the NFL on both sides of the ball.
And I think that the Travis Hunter move going to Jacksonville is kind of, I think, a perfect situation for him, in the sense of Brian Thomas Jr. stepped up last year and became their true wide receiver one. So you obviously, Trevor Lawrence is going to be throwing them the football there, but he goes into a situation where he's not looked at or essentially needed to be that wide receiver number one. Now, if he becomes that and he's a better receiver than Brian Thomas Jr., then hey, that is perfectly fine there. But for Travis to go to a situation where, going in at least, he's already the bona fide number two guy, and you have a true, weapon on the opposite side that's going to be a threat down the field and a threat for the big play as well. I think that's a match made in heaven there for him. So I definitely think it was a good landing spot for him. I think he's a generational talent. I've said it on record, and I'll keep saying it until I'm blue in the face. So for Jacksonville, even though they gave up a lot, giving up a first next year and, ultimately their second this past year and things like that, I thought it was a big time package, but I think those are the moves you make for generational talents.
And let me ask you this, because I defer to the knowledge of College Cottrell. Colston Loveland, what do you think the impact that he could have for Chicago and what he can do for Caleb Williams?
So I love Colston Loveland. I've been the one that I've had him rated higher than Tyler Warren. I think he projects to be a better tight end at the next level than Tyler Warren. I think Tyler Warren went to a great situation in Indianapolis, and a lot of people, he wears number 44. He's a bigger tight end with the athletic ability. A lot of people think he's going to be Dallas Clark, which would be a good fit for him. Like if he had his career turn out to be that'll be really good for him. This is crazy to say because I don't think this is going to be his career arc, but Colston Loveland has the ability to be a Travis Kelce-esque tight end. He has all the athletic ability in the world. He's great with, catching the ball and getting the yards after catch. And I think him going to Chicago is perfect for him because right now they already have Cole Kmet, which essentially in my mind, how I'm kind of thinking about it, they're going to have Cole Kmet do all the dirty work. They're going to have him do the blocking and things like that. And Colston Loveland came from Michigan. He can block, but that's just not who he is as a player. He wants to go downfield, stretch the field. And so I really love what Chicago is doing with that young core. You have DJ Moore, you have Rome Odunze, you added in Luther Burden. So you got three younger receivers right there. And then you add a guy who can stretch the middle of the field in Colston Loveland. I think it was a beautiful fit for them. And just knowing Ben Johnson and the offensive mind that he is, I think that's the perfect situation for him, and they're going to put him in a great position to succeed there. So I love the fit for Colston Loveland. I wasn't surprised that he was the first tight end off the board either, because I think he's a better fit than what Tyler Warren would have been. But I also think he's just going to flat out be the better player. So I loved it, and I think he's going to be big time in Chicago.
I'm with you 100%. I think he's going to be the kind of tight end that he's a little bit more of a vertical threat, right? That he can get down the field a little bit more. Yeah. I think he gives them a little bit more versatility offensive. Another playmaker for Caleb Williams to work with. So I thought it was a great pick. This is the pick that I wanted to ask you about. You know better than me. I only seen the young man play a couple of times. The Niners took Mykel Williams at 11. Do you think that was too high?
I do, and I said this on Wire to Wire last night as well, that I think with Mykel, I thought he was a guy that he's still kind of raw. He's still, learning the game in a sense. I thought he was a first-round talent, but I thought the 49ers, if that was the position that they wanted to go after, they would have had the ability to trade back. Like, I thought Mykel would have been there in the 20s to potentially even early 30s picks there. Like, I thought he had been a great fit for a team like the Eagles, and I thought he might still be on the board even then. So I think taking him at 11 was very, very high, but I mean, I also think he has high upside too. But as far as taking him at 11. I wouldn't have put the 11th pick on him. That's not to say he's not a good player. Like I think he can turn out to be a really good player, but in a draft where I feel like this draft specifically for me, it was very like you had to play it for value. Like I think that's why you saw a lot of teams trading back. Like you saw the Rams trade back, and they were perfectly fine with doing so, and they still had a pretty good draft there. The Browns traded back, and although I hated it, I can at least understand that they're like, hey, we get a first next year. We think that class is going to be better, so we're fine with trading back, still getting a good piece there. So I think this was a draft to trade back, and I think teams had needs. And if the 49ers would have picked up the phone, I think they could have got back to like 16 or 17 and still got Michael off the board there. So I think he could be a good player. I just think it was a little early for him. And, I think the 49ers could have recouped some more capital if that was their pick all along.
You read my mind. And look, I do think he's going to be a good football player. But like you said, and I think I heard you say this, the Niners drafted for need. And I get that. That makes sense. They needed to fill holes for edge rusher, for defensive line, for offensive line. They needed a couple playmakers. And yet you felt like most of the guys they went after or they drafted, they kind of reached on a lot of them.
Yeah, that was really my thinking there with it, because like I'll say it like this, like I think you see, and this is, kind of is a perfect little segue into a rookie who I think could be pretty impactful on the defensive side, but you see Mike Green, and I know he had off the field issues, and that's also why he slipped to the second round.
Right.
For me, I had Mike Green as I want to say he was my second best edge rusher in this entire class, and he won the second round. And, with that being the case there, if that's not your guy and, you don't want to bring those kinds of guys into your locker room, I can 100% understand that. But this was a class, like an edge class that I thought was pretty deep. And so drafting for need, like, yeah, that's cool, but not in years where that position is pretty deep. And so with Mike Green still being on the board there, and Michael, again, me having a mid to late first round grade on him, I just thought they could have got a little bit more in that situation.
Okay. I agree.
But like I said, just kind of leading right into the defensive side of the ball, though, I think Mike Green's going to have one of the biggest impacts as a rookie. Going to a Baltimore Ravens team where you're not going to be tasked to be the guy, like Abdul Carter going to the Giants. I know he's got Brian Burns on the opposite side of him, but like as the number 3 pick, you're going to be looked at as the guy. Like,
yeah,
you have to make those big time plays there. With Mike Green, he's going to go into the Ravens system, fit like a glove, and really just be in the rotation. It's going to feel like every time that he's out there, he's fresh, because the Ravens always rotate their defensive line. So I thought that was a great move for them. I think he has the potential to have a high impact even as a rookie. Mo, defensively, anybody that you're looking towards or that you saw had a good fit?
I was wondering what you felt about Kenneth Grant with the Dolphins. Do you think that he can be impactful immediately, or will he be more of a rotation player?
I think he's going to be impactful immediately, but I also think that was a pick that I was not expecting them to make that move then either. Again, another one where I thought they kind of reached on him. I thought he was a mid to late first rounder as well there. But he definitely feels a need for them. I think he could be like the Christian Wilkinson that they had, Wilkins that they had before. Definitely feels a need for him. I thought they were going to go corner early, but yeah, I mean, he's definitely going to help stop the run and things like that. So I thought it was a good pick, but I also thought they picked him a little bit early.
I get you. So here, obviously, there's a team that we both know needed defense. What do you think about what the Bengals did when they went ahead and they drafted Shamir Stewart?
So Stewart is the interesting one. I am not a fan at all of him. I would not have touched him in the first round. My thing is that he's this athletic freak. He has all the tools in the world, but for a career, you're telling me that you're an edge rusher, you have all these tools, you're fast, you can jump out of the gym. All your measurables say you should be like Myles Garrett, but you have 3.5 sacks. Like, for me, I think production matters, and I get it. College development is going to be a little bit different than what the NFL development is like there, but you should be, even in the SEC, you should be physically imposing your will on the opposing team if you have that kind of frame, and if I'm viewing you as a first round talent there. So I think he's going to be one of those ones you look at and it's like, they missed on that first rounder. So look at all the measurables. People love them. You fall in love with the workouts and when you're not in pads, but you throw on the film, you'll see that he has a very lackluster ability to get after the quarterback.
Let me ask you about the Falcons. Do you think they answered the bell in terms of recognizing that they desperately needed help at edge rusher? They needed to be able to get to the quarterback. Obviously, one of the worst teams in football in terms of getting to the quarterback. Do you think they got the right guy, or would you have traded down again?
So I thought as a whole, the Falcons had a really, really good draft. I thought it was interesting for them to trade back into the first round and get more talent. Like obviously they had to get rid of a first there. And I talked about the Rams trading back there and getting another first for next year. But I thought the Falcons making the move to get focus on defense, I thought that was perfect. And then I also loved one of their signings as far as getting Kobe Bryant as an undrafted free agent. I think he's going to be a guy that could be a high impactful guy. I think he's one of those sleepers out there. But Jalen Walker is one of those kind of hybrid players and I'm not saying he's going to be a player like this, but he's like the Abdul Carters, where he was a edge rusher, middle linebacker kind of hybrid in college there, like a Micah Parsons who did the same thing at Penn State, and really just seeming like that's where the league is going to at this point, where you want those leaner guys that can play middle linebacker or also come off the edge there. But then they also went out and got a true edge player in James Pierce Jr., who, if he didn't have his off the field issues, would have probably been a top 10 to 15 picks. So I thought they did a great job getting great value there. And then just to compound that, they also added Xavier Watts, who I think is going to be a starting safety at the NFL level, getting him in the third round. I thought the Falcons absolutely killed in this draft.
Okay, so we talked a lot about my Niners and some of the picks that they made. How do you feel about your own hometown Browns? What do you feel about the kind of draft that you think they had overall?
As a whole, I give it like a B minus. I'm not a big fan of drafting two positions that, well, I mean, we did need a quarterback, and I do think we needed to revamp the running back room as well. But drafting two running backs, drafting two quarterbacks, I'm not a huge fan of it. I think Dylan Sampson can be, a decent running back in the league. I love the Quinshon Judkins pick, obviously being a Buckeye. Like I think he fits the scheme like a glove. And as far as getting the quarterback position, Dylan Gabriel is one of those ones where I didn't think there was any shot that he would go in the first 3 rounds. So I was very shocked when I heard his name called in the third round going to the Browns. For me, you get a 5'11" quarterback that doesn't have great arm strength. He's a middle of the pack kind of athlete there. And again, he's 5'11" and he's left-handed. So you got to kind of refocus your offensive there. Obviously left tackle is the cornerstone piece there. But when you have left-handed quarterbacks, you got to focus on getting a great right tackle because that's their blind side. So I thought that was a very interesting pick there. And, to me, I think Gabriel pans out as a career backup kind of quarterback. I think he has a long career in the league because he's accurate and, understands the game pretty well. But I don't think he's a guy that you look at as being your, future starter there. As far as the Shedeur pick, absolutely loved it. I mean, getting a talent like Shedeur, I had a first round grade on him. And as crazy as it sounds, I had him as the best quarterback in this class. I think Cam Ward as a whole is a better talent individually. But if you put both of them in the best possible systems, I think Shedeur is better. And I think the Brown system is perfect for him. He's going to be coached by Kevin Stefanski, who was under Pat Shurmur, the OC at Colorado in their time in Minnesota. So I think, you kind of already probably understand the language that the Browns use just because of the familiarity there. And, I think he probably already knows as well what the Browns want to do. They do the play action. They get the ball out quick. They like hitting their tight ends. And the Browns actually have a decent offensive line as well. So Shedeur should be comfortable back there. And I think he has the ability to not only win the job, but take it over for the Browns. That could be great for him in the long run, because you get him on this cheap contract, you get him in the 5th round. And when you're paying Deshaun Watson essentially $50 million, if you have a rookie quarterback like that and is getting the starters minutes and, you're not paying him much, that's how you can get out from under that Deshaun Watson contract.
Agreed.
Although it sucks that you're paying him that much and he'd be sitting on the bench, that's how you navigate around that.
I like Shedeur with Stefanski. I also like the fact that I think having a vet like Flacco in that quarterback room is a good thing. Is a really good thing. Look, Joe Flacco's seen every type of coverage, every formation, every defense. Like, I think having somebody like that can get in your ear and talk to you and point things out, that's invaluable. So I think that it's weird to say this, but you got a starting quarterback in the 5th round. I truly believe that. I'm one of the wild ones that was stunned that he wasn't a first round. I know we weren't going to talk about this, so I'm just gonna make it really short. I think you guys got a starting quarterback in the 5th round. I'll leave it at that.
I agree, and I'm hoping we see that. And ultimately, at the end of the day, pressure makes diamonds, and I think whether it be Gabriel or whether it be Shedeur starting that quarterback there, you bring in 2 guys that have the ability to be starting quarterbacks in the league there. And again, if you have Deshaun Watson and you're paying him all that money and he can't play, having a rookie quarterback fill the need there, in a position where you can't go out and pay a ton of money to get somebody to play the quarterback position, you got to bank on one of those hitting. So as much as I don't like drafting 2 quarterbacks, I can kind of understand it, because at the end of the day, you just hope one of them pan out. And it's
great
if one of them pan out all the way, at the end of the day, you're not even going to remember that they drafted 2 quarterbacks in that draft. But we only got, looks like, about 7 minutes left in the show here. Mo, I wanted to bring up a topic that has been dominating social media and making its rounds everywhere.
Sure.
We talked about a little bit on Wire to Wire last night as well. You have the 100 men versus one gorilla. Now, I'm curious to know your thoughts about it. And I also want to know if, we talked about it last night on Wire to Wire. We did 100 random, average men. But in your mind, if you knew you had to go into battle, are there any guys that you have to absolutely throw in there to give you a better chance to win? Because for me, I put together a list of 10. Give me the 90 average men, but I put together a list of 10 guys. So I'm like,
I would love to hear your list.
There, and I think we can make something happen.
So first of all, the phenomena of this situation blows my mind. Secondly, because yes, you can say it's 100 men against one gorilla. Do you know how strong gorillas are? like when people go, well, they'll just overwhelm them. I'm like, you do know that those first 5 guys that go up there, they're getting broken limbs at a minimum. Like who's signing up to be the first 5 guys to touch him? Because the first 5 guys that put hands on the gorilla, they're getting broken up. So I'm cool, but I want to be 100. If I'm in that mix, I want to be a number 100 so I can see how well it's going. Because if it's not going well, Mo's taken out. It's scary, like the concept of that. Like they go, well, it's just one gorilla, but man, they're incredibly powerful.
No, they definitely are. But so my thinking behind it was, I think you have to have everybody knowing and everyone on the same page that there's roles that need to be played here. And I think going in, there's going to be casualties. I mean, at the end of the day, there's no way you're walking out with 100 men fully still alive. It's just not going to happen.
Facts.
So you have to understand that there are going to be casualties. And, I'm not saying that you necessarily have to go out and volunteer to be one of those casualties, but you kind of have to know that you might fall in that boat. And that's okay for argument's sake here, because we have a goal in mind here to bring down this gorilla. So for me, I put together a list of 10 here of guys that I absolutely need to have in there. And it's size, it's speed, it's the thought process. I got a little bit of everything here. So
I'm here for it.
A couple of the guys that I have here, John Jones being public enemy number one. I mean, the most feared mixed martial artist on the planet. I mean, I think the frame that he has, the stamina, I mean, everything makes sense there. Like, I want top-notch fighters. And just piggybacking off of that, Francis Ngannou, strongest heavyweight on the planet right now, in mixed martial arts. And, you know, I need some strength. If we're going to take down this gorilla, we need some strength. So I'll keep it with the big guys here. Throw in Mark Henry, Mr. World's Strongest Man.
I love that pick.
Give me some weight. Give me some strength there. If I need, you know, things to get pulled apart or things to get picked up, we got Mark Henry there. I'm sticking with the big man of the WWE. I'm also rolling with the Big Show. I need some intimidation. I need some size there. Maybe we just have him sit on the gorilla's leg. I need the size there with Big Show. My last WWE guy, I got the Beast, man. Give me Brock Lesnar in there to come out, give me some additional strength. Obviously, we know his martial arts background there, so he can strike there for real. Can wrestle. Wanted that in there. One with a couple NBA guys as well. Got Draymond Green just because he's reckless. I mean, he might find, you know, a sweet spot for this gorilla. Kick him somewhere where
he's going to kick the gorilla. This is for sure.
Somewhere that's gonna hurt a little bit.
Right.
Also put LeBron James on my list here. Look, I need a guy that's going to facilitate my guys. I need him to be out there leading the guys and leading the charge there, but also having the size and the athletic ability to put in some work as well. So I got my facilitator there.
I love that pick because LeBron is going to be the guy that tells the guys, like, so you know you 10 aren't coming back.
Yep.
He's going to be that guy.
Yep. He's going to be that guy, facilitating everything, letting them know, like, hey, you know, this is probably your last stop on the road here, but definitely needed some leadership out there. And then I got two track guys and a football player. My football player, Myles Garrett. I need the freakiest athlete out there. Mixed strength with speed. I think that's a perfect fit for me. But then I also have two fast guys. I got Tyreek Hill for speed. Try to tire out this gorilla, have him run around, chase him, whatever the case may be. And then I'm throwing in Noah Lyles as well because fastest man on the planet. Again, similar to Tyreek Hill, you kind of run him around, try and get some of that gorilla stamina down, and figure out what we can do. So give me the 90 average guys. I'll throw all my 10 guys and my athletes, and we'll try and get it done.
Now, when you throw in the 10 that you named with the 90, I feel better about accomplishing the mission. I still think you're going to lose like 60 or so of the 90, though. You're going to lose a lot.
That's okay.
Yeah, right, because the mission is to accomplish the goal. And as you said, we already know there's going to be casualties, right? And LeBron, being the brilliant mind he is, he's going to dictate, like, hey, you five, you actually get extra portions of dinner tonight because tomorrow, I mean, you know.
Yeah, we know the inevitable is coming tomorrow.
Right, so love the 10 guys you picked, especially the Big Show and Mark Henry. That is perfect.
Yeah, no, I thought so as well, but Mo, it sounds like you don't give the men much of an opportunity there unless we have some high profile athletes in there. You're saying 100 average men couldn't do it.
No, I think that's a dead 100 average man. Because the way this goes, right, it's just them. They're not brandishing weapons or nothing. So if you're telling me just 100 men versus the gorilla, I think you're going to have a dead 100 men.
Yeah, I mean, I can be swayed either way there. I have my faith in humanity. I think we'd be able to find a way to get it done, but I say one day we just need to put together some sort of experiment here, get people to sign up, and see if we can make this thing happen. But that is it for the morning show today. Mo, it's always a pleasure being able to hop on here with you. Man. Definitely love coming on, talking some ball with you. But hopefully this isn't the last time that we're on together. We definitely need to make this happen a little bit more often there. So definitely appreciate you having me. Had a blast today. But go ahead and close us out.
Thank you guys so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate to College Cottrell, the great one, for hopping on. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you.
All right. See you guys.